Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Mindhunter Season 2, Episode 8. It is not called anything, it's just called Episode 8. That's only the second time I've done it, in 8 episodes. 1 in 4 is not bad.
It's not terrible. It's not good enough either, though. You're supposed to be a professional.
Shit your face. So full spoilers for the episode, as always, and we are still dealing with the Atlanta killings, we're still dealing with these kids. In fact, by the end of the episode, I believe we're up to 28 victims. When we started the 19 we were at, 1920,
Yeah.
but by the end of the episode, we're up to 28. And we see on TV they're going to do this concert. I've forgotten the artist that came to do it.
Sinatra was one, I think.
Was it? Yeah, sounds right. Oh, I mean, I knew their names when they mentioned them. I've forgotten what they said.
Yeah, I'm struggling. I think Sinatra was one.
So Holden gets this plan. Now, Bill does some surveillance with the local cop on the potential photographer brother dude that we heard about last episode. And they don't see much, but they do hear an interesting phone call, which refers to getting another kid and killing someone. So they bring him in for questioning. And while he's very, very open about his feelings on various things, you know, when they ask him about the killings, he's like, "Oh, that's very, what was the word he used? Frustrating." And Bill says, "What do you mean frustrating?" He's like, "Well, all those searches slows down the traffic, kind of thing." So he makes it very known that he is not feeling very sympathetic to what's going on, but is very confident about his involvement here or lack thereof, and even offers a lie detector test, which he passes multiple times.
Yeah, like I say, he's definitely okay with the fact that they're happening, but he seems to not be implicit in it himself.
Yeah. So even though looking to that, and I love how he even points out that Holden looks bored and doesn't want to be there, because Holden's just sitting in the corner letting his watch this entire interrogation. He's just not interested. He doesn't think it applies to anything they're doing. But Holden's got this plan for this concert where he thinks that the killer will definitely go, and especially if they offer up some kind of role that makes it feel like he's almost a part of the investigation process, where they're going to offer like jobs for security for the event, and they're going to look for people obviously in the profile they're looking for, and sort of interview the most relevant ones, the most suspicious ones, depending on how many they get, because they may get hundreds, so they may have to narrow it down a little bit.
Yeah.
But this is a plan, and much like the cross from before, we hit a lot of red tape.
Yeah. This time at the local level.
Yeah.
But damn that bureaucracy.
Yeah, because I mean he gets the go ahead from the chief, but there's this fat cop who's, "Oh, I'm here to help you with the getting these adverts out for the job to lure in the killer." He's like, "Oh, great, I need this. Oh no, wait, hold on a second now. You have to get a work order from there, and you have to do this and get a location and all these different things."
And he's like, oh, it's across more than one district. Well, you got to get permission from all of them.
Yes. So it's hit with this big list of demands from this cop. But Holden, being Holden, goes and gets things done. He goes to Tanya at the hotel and gets a room there, conference room to facilitate the interviews, and he gets all this stuff. And obviously, there's a couple of little bits here or there where we see that there's kids hanging around, because this hotel seems to be connected to a shopping mall. Was the gist I got? Either that or there's just a really intense shopping area at the bottom of this mall.
Yeah.
Because they literally just walk through a little walkway and there's like a lot of stores and there's an arcade.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's not uncommon. I mean, hotels attached to shopping malls.
Oh, absolutely. So, but we see that Tanya's like actually giving the kids money so they can go play in the arcade because it'll keep them off the streets. Because at this point there's been 20, dead kids. Like they're trying real hard to make sure the kids are just not on the street to be taken.
It's pretty sensible.
It makes a lot of sense, but that's a little tidbit for later. And Holden gets all this done. He goes back to the dude, and he's like, "Yep, okay." And he's like, "Oh, wait a minute. This event's in 4 days. We'll barely get everything printed in that time. Never mind that, because at this point they want to put up flyers on all the previous crime scenes, all the areas where kids were taken. And he even decides when he sees this arcade, he's like, "Oh, this is a hunting ground. Let's put flyers here as well."
Yeah,
but. And unlike the cross, there's no forcing this one. There's no like last minute, maybe we can pull this off. It's just, no, this is impossible, and he has to accept it.
The guy's like, look, I can't even get them printed for 3 days, and then they'd have to be delivered, and then you'd have to do interviews. It's just not happening.
Yeah. And Holden is very pissy about this at the concert. You know, they're all there, and he's like, I know he's here. I know the killer's here, but I have no way of finding him. I have no way of, seeing who he is. And Jim's like, look, we tried our best. It's like, I'm sick of trying, kind of thing.
Yeah.
He's getting very frustrated. He's getting very frustrated. And loud, yes. To the point where he might actually be overheard by some of the crowd who are there for this charity concert.
Yeah.
And ultimately, though, we get another body. We get another body in the river. And this comes after a news report where the press actually mentioned that they found fibres on one of the bodies. And while that's not uncommon, Jim points out they've done that with at least 6 victims so far. This is the first time it's been reported in the news. Therefore, the killer now knows that this is possible and might change
system.
Yeah, he might change what he does to accommodate for this. And sure enough, the next body shows up in a river, stripped to just the underwear. And it's like, okay, so he's trying to make sure the physical evidence that might be on the body is being washed away as best he can.
Yeah.
Presumably he's burning the clothes or whatever. Maybe he's keeping them as souvenirs.
It's reasonably smart.
So it's like, wait, if he's dumping bodies now, because they get a second body in a river as well. It's like, well, he's going to rivers. That's where we survey. We go to the rivers, and it's like, well, we're I mean, rivers, pretty big thing. You can't
cover it all.
Yeah, cover it all. But given where he came from and how long he's been in the water, he was probably dropped somewhere in the middle, and that means probably bridges. So okay, there's 14 bridges, I think they said, up and down this river, and they're going to survey them.
Stake them out for the next 4 weeks, every night.
Yep, ends up being 5 weeks, I think. And it's like, well, we got this amount of time. It'll cost a lot. They're using cadets to sort of, they can't carry badges and guns, but they can look.
They can keep an eye out.
Yeah, they can be eyes and ears. So then we get a big montage. But before we move into that, though, we should probably mention the confrontation that Bill and Holden have at the river.
Yeah.
Because, of course, Holden, much like last episode, is getting very frustrated that Bill is, spending so much time away from Atlanta and seems to be distant when he is there.
Having to catch him up on the events, and he's like, no, you're supposed to be helping lead this investigation, and you don't even know half the facts.
Yeah, so Holden, Bill, rather, very matter of fact, actually just straight up tells him what happened with Brian, and does it in a very... And he doesn't even shout. Well, this is the thing. I could have seen Bill shouting this. I could have seen Bill losing his temper here. And he doesn't. He actually, in a weird way, we keep going back to the idea of Bill and Wendy being his parents in a manner of speaking. And I feel like this moment here, he kind of intentionally uses a stern voice, but not an angry one.
Guilt trips him.
Yeah.
I think it's notable that he mentions that, Brian was there and saw, the toddler die, but didn't mention any involvement.
That's true. I think that could be down to just that's like an extra, because he was going through it quite quickly. That could just be an extraneous detail. But it is notable that Holden very abruptly stops complaining.
Yeah.
Very, very little to say to that afterwards. He's a lot more sympathetic, seemingly, as much as Holden can be. So no, very interesting. But we get the stakeout montage. We get a lot of them sitting in cars. We get a lot of them waiting by the bridge.
Back to the hotel at night and having the breakfast day after day, and just putting them outside the doors.
By the time they're done, Bill's miserable with the breakfast that they're having. And I did like the small detail that he was trying to block the light coming out of the room. You got the ironing board out to hold the curtain, just shut at the crack.
You and I have both experienced some terrible sleeping patterns in our time.
Oh yes, we're both very familiar.
This is a familiar thing to me.
Yeah, I feel like I've had enough bad sleeping patterns in my time that I'm just used to sleeping through sunlight. But
yeah, no, I got to that point as well. But earlier on, it didn't used to be that case. Now I just have blackout curtains. It solves the problem.
Viewers across the world are sitting to themselves right now saying, just go to sleep at a regular time. To which I say, never.
Yeah. Even when I'm up for work at 8, I'm still up till 2, sometimes 3 doing this. So
yeah. So we get this great montage. There's some humor in there as well. They're swatting flies. They're getting the the medication out for it and the fly repellent and everything else. And I don't know if I'm saying the right thing. I've never used bug spray in my life.
Have you not?
Don't get me wrong, bugs are annoying, but I've never been that, attacked by that many that I felt the need to get some help.
I have a couple of times, like when I've been like camping in certain places and areas where it's a bit, you're close to a source, like a lake or something like that, and they tend to swarm around a lot more. They're annoying little bastards.
Oh yeah, bugs are the worst. So this is all going, but it gets nothing. It gets nothing. They're told that this is their last week. They're not going to be able to afford to pay for it anymore. It's all this overtime for all these cops is building up.
And they're being pretty understandable. Like when Bill, points out, "Hey, look, we're not done anything. Maybe we should try Holden's methods." They're like, "Sure, we've got nothing left to lose, but we can't fund it indefinitely," which is reasonable.
Yeah, which was a notable moment, I thought, Bill kind of sticking up for Holden's methods, because, up until this point, it felt like he wasn't really backing him up, which is maybe why Holden was getting very antsy as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they go through all this surveillance, and it really achieves very little. There is one scene, though, where Holden's at the arcade, and he sees, because he's at the hotel, and he sees a kid kind of through the mall
it's when
area.
He's just come back in the morning. Yeah, Bill's just gone up in the lift to his room, and Holden sees a kid hiding. So he's like, I'm going to go talk to him.
And he goes to talk to him, and offers him some money, and the kid's like, oh no, I know what $10 buys. And Holden, just not wanting to scare him, just sort of puts it down next to him and says, no, you can take it, just, play some games.
Stay inside, go play in the arcade for the day.
Yeah. And Holden sort of stops, he's walking away and he stops, just as he's about to turn the corner, and turns around and says, what does $10 usually buy? Because, I mean, it sounded like prostitution to me, just the way he said it.
It did, and I think that's what Holden's question was like, wait, how serious is it for $10?
Yeah, and it's not like that far off. We're in the ballpark here where it's $5 as a photograph. And he's like, you mean like a Polaroid? And like, so do you know if any of the kids who have went missing, like, and been killed, do you know if any of them took money for things like that? He's like, yeah, some of them. And he's getting somewhere. He's actually getting like a lead that might actually achieve something.
Yeah, because he asks, oh, do they go to the brick house? And he goes, no, this brown house by the stadium.
Yeah. And then when he shows him his badge, saying, hey, I'm with the FBI, and the kid just gets scared and runs away. The idea of talking to the FBI terrifies him, so he just bolts.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating, but at the same time, it's like, that was like, and obviously Holden's like inquiring, can we get, talk to this kid's parents and get permission to talk to him properly and do this the right way? And it's like, well, it's going to be hard, but we're at least following up on what you heard already. And, we're looking for houses next to the stadium, yada, yada, yada. And Holden finally kind of concedes to Bill that he could be wrong in his assumptions. Now, I stand by something that made me back up Holden last episode.
Okay.
Which was the idea of the killer kind of taunting them with the next victim by putting it in the place they'd already searched. Did still say to me it was one person, but he's admitting here that the idea that there could be multiple people involved in this because they're being lured into different places.
Yeah, I think it's part of, well, hang on. We saw the house with the, we knew the one house, we'd raided it and got the pictures. Now we know there's someone else doing it, and it seems to be a thing. These people probably know each other. Are they in on this together?
It also could be very possible that only one is actually the murderer and the others don't know about that. Obviously they're into the pictures and sharing them and whatever else.
But maybe not the killing.
Yeah, but it may just be the one person who's doing the killing. It could be someone who just scouts the same area, perhaps.
Yeah, could be.
As these pornographers. Or let's just call it pedophiles, I suppose I should just call them that. But so Holden is a little humbled just for a second, where maybe, just maybe, he might be wrong. And it's a moment, I think Bill sort of acknowledges this as a little moment. He doesn't say anything, but you can see it in his face. He's like, huh. He's accepted this.
Yeah.
Fun. So that's really good. But of course, right at the end of the episode, and what I think is maybe the last night in 5 weeks of surveillance.
Yeah, it is.
There's a suspicious car, which Like, one of the cops like over the radio is like, oh, we heard a splash, oh, there's a car moving here, blah blah.
And it's like, oh, it's just turned its lights back on. It might have been stopped.
Yeah. And sure enough, they stop. Jim rushes out in front of it to make sure he stops, and then Holden and Bill show up, and we have this guy. And he's a black guy in the age range that they've been looking for, and he doesn't act suspicious. He just kind of says what his name is, and that's kind of
like, oh, do you know what this is about? And it's like, oh, well, it's probably about them kids, isn't it?
Yeah, which could just be that he's not an idiot. He pays attention to the news and imagines this is what it's probably all about.
Yeah, it's perfectly plausible.
Yeah. So, but presumably, given that the next episode is the finale, like, how much of an interrogation are we getting with this guy?
Yeah, and worth noting for anyone who knows the history of this case, which I happen to, he gives his name.
Is it the name you're expecting?
It is, but there is a twist to this story that you might not know. That is going to be interesting in the sense of Holden's outcome, I think.
All right, don't tell me. I'll look forward to it.
No, I won't. But again, it's one of those. It's history. If you know it, you know it.
Yeah, if you know it, you know it.
Nothing you can do about that. But I say it's not as simple as it's going to seem. Even though this is the right guy to a point, it's going to be a really interesting interview.
Okay, I look forward to it. But it ends just kind of here. It ends with this cliffhanger of they've got someone who might be the guy. Go to credits. So, and this was the Fincher directed one, right? No, it's not. This is Carl Franklin. You told me episode 8 was the Fincher one.
That's what IMDb said when I looked at the start.
Not anymore. It's not. Carl Franklin did this one and the next one. When was the second Fincher episode? I'm going back. Carl Franklin's done like episode 6 onwards. Andrew Dominic did 5, 4. Fincher did 3.
Well, yeah, he did 1, 2, and 3.
Oh, he did 1, 2, and 3. Oh.
Yeah, according to IMDb, it must have updated after I looked before.
Ah, there you go. Okay. Never mind then. But the finale is a longer episode, and to be fair, the direction didn't exactly plummet after episode 3. It's been solid.
No, it really didn't, did it?
So yeah, we got a longer finale. So 70 minutes again, much like episode 5. I expect maybe a big interrogation here with this. I'm not expecting any more serial killer interviews, funnily enough.
No, I'm not either. I mean, that's something that's a little disappointing in the back half of this season is those. We got like the couple near the start between with that Holden and Bill were involved in. But the back half, I've missed them, shall we say?
I think it makes sense that we're going more to active cases. I think we're going to see, to an extent, the interviews with the serial killers replaced with interrogations of people who might be serial killers.
That's fine, yeah.
And that'll be the fun of it, is trying to like actually get them to talk, because they've got more of a reason to not talk. They've got more of a reason to lie as much as possible in this situation.
Yeah, I think things that I personally would like to happen to some extent in this next episode. Otherwise, I will be a little disappointed. Something that I think we need to follow up on Holden's anxiety issues.
Yeah, it's not really come up since like,
it's not really come up. We were really thinking, right, the Manson one, to the point where after the Manson interview, I thought, oh, there'll be another one where it gets, because that one got to Bill, there'll be one where it gets to Holden, and it hasn't really. He's doing it wrong. He's not been 100%. He even says to Bill here, like, he's been leaning on Bill, because he's not 100%. But it's not been the huge factor that I think it was established that it was going to be.
I don't think I need him to have like an actual panic attack, but yeah, it does have to play into the finale in some way, because
there needs to be some, even if it's just a moment of catharsis or just showing that he's okay now. I do feel there needs to be some follow up to that.
Yeah. Let's rewind and go to Bill and Nancy's plots, where he's home for the psychiatrist interview, and he's out in the waiting area with Nancy, and they're talking, and she, out of nowhere, says they should move house. They should sell their house for profit and get a nicer place somewhere else. And it very much sounds like she just wants a fresh start. Again, it's kind of going back to her ignorance. Yeah. Well, not her ignorance, but her wish for ignorance, I suppose, is maybe
just to forget it all ever happened.
Yeah, she wants to just be in denial. And that it's even backed up later on when she tells a story later on about how he was in the bath, and for a minute she forgot that what he'd witnessed and what he'd done, and it was just her son again, and it was like this moment of bliss.
Yeah.
But then it all came flooding back. So, and Bill's like, what move? What? Like, no, let's not do this. We should stay. We shouldn't like mess up his life right now. Let's keep him in a stable pattern until he's healthy again. let's not have to change therapists, which might have to happen if they move. Maybe they'll be in a different district or something like that. Like, all sorts of disruptions this could cause. And when he comes back again, like the following week, and she's sitting outside and she tells that story about the bath. She says, you're going to have to pick him up from school and make sure he gets dinner and put him to bed. I'm going out. And he's like, well, where's it? I don't know, the mall. I'm not sure. She just wants to go and be alone.
This follows after, I think, probably an important point from her, in that after it all came back, after, when the bath scene, when it all came flooding back, she was glad that he wasn't actually her son.
Yeah.
Biologically, because she was like, oh, well, at least it didn't come from me.
Yeah, it didn't come from my body, so it's not my fault.
Which seems very unhealthy.
It does. It does. I think this is again a sign where she's not really processing what she's went through with this. She's been in denial, and maybe this is the first time she's really actually kind of admitted she's felt something. Beyond just the fear and horror of her son being involved in it.
Yeah. I do have to admit though, I feel like this was the most boring plot, like Nancy stuff. It's like, yeah, okay, I get it, but I'm just not that into it.
What about the Bill scene though, where he takes Brian to ice cream?
I like the Bill scene. The Nancy stuff specifically is what
Nancy
I said
specifically, because he takes Brian to ice cream. He's like, let's go on an adventure, because he's not talking to him. He's asking him how his day was, yada yada yada. He's not responding, and takes him for ice cream. And again, he's trying to make small talk. He's saying, "Oh, I used to, go buy ice cream with my dad after we fished, and we'd catch a big fish." And the only thing Brian says this entire episode is when he's talking about holding the fish after they've got out of the water.
And it's flapping around in his hands.
Yeah. He just looks his head up and goes, did the fish die? And Bill's caught off guard, and he's like, well, eventually. But it's like, and that would be a fine question if he was speaking about other things as well, but because that's the only thing he said, and because of the nature of what he's been involved in, it's like,
that's creepy as shit.
Yeah, I mean, for Bill, Halloween came out 2 years ago. I mean, I think at that point he should be thinking, holy shit, you're goddamn Michael Myers.
Yeah, like Bill has gone and seen Halloween yet.
I think he will go see it.
He doesn't strike me as a guy who watches a lot of movies.
Nah, I feel like Holden dragged him to it though. He's like, they've made a movie about a serial killer. We have to see it, Holden. We have to see it, Bill, because we have to be up and up in what the people think about serial killers.
It's possible. They can justify watching all the slasher movies as research.
Do you know what's interesting, actually? When Halloween came out, was this before or after the term serial killer?
That's what I'm just thinking. That literally popped into my head about 20 seconds ago.
Because it's about that time.
They're only just starting to use it with other people. Like, they're still using multiple murderers a lot, and every so often dropping in serial killer. Yeah,
I feel like... Yeah, now I'm thinking about it, I don't think the word serial killers is really brought up in the original Halloween. Maybe by Halloween 4, which was 10 years later, they were saying that a lot, but
maybe.
I don't think they were saying it in Halloween 1. I think they were just calling him a killer. He's a disturbed individual. He's this, he's that. But
to be fair, was he a serial killer before that night?
I suppose technically that's true. If anything, it'd be Halloween 2 would be the first chance.
Yeah, and that follows on pretty directly, if I recall.
And that came out in 81, so that's another year after this.
Yeah, so maybe still not till 3. Well, 3's different, so 4.
Yeah, 4, yeah. That's curious. I almost want to go back and watch a lot of slasher movies now from the early 80s and see when the term serial killer...
When they first used, try and find chronologically, when was the first usage in the slasher movies?
I mean, obviously, if nothing else, I can guarantee you that by Silence of the Lambs, it was being used thoroughly. because they throw it around a lot.
Yeah, they do.
I'm sure they do. But yeah, so fascinating. But that's the other thing with Bill is much like with Holden, he gets very honest and candid with Brian, where he says, "Look, I need you to."
I can only imagine how you feel.
Yeah, I need you to talk to me. Are you mad? Are you sad?
Yeah,
because you're scaring the shit out of me, and I don't want to be scared. He's very candid, and it made me think of Holden because you get very candid with Holden,
and then doesn't even let him finish the ice cream.
No, that's not.
There's still a good half of it left when he's like, he puts the money down the table. It's like, right, we're off. Obviously, doesn't say that, but
that's what your mind was on during this scene.
I noticed it was only like there was still like half of it. It was at the end of the scene. Give me peace.
How much ice cream is left? Oh, there's ice cream being wasted. I'm not happy about this. Do you know how many ice cream they probably wasted because they had to do multiple takes? Yeah, probably a
Yeah,
lot. Just accept
yeah,
that, cut. Accept that
yeah.
ice cream was harmed in the
I,
making of this movie or TV
I'm
show.
sure the kid didn't mind having to eat ice cream every take.
Probably not. If I had to, it probably made his job tough, though, because like you have to look depressed and like morbid. He's like, but I'm eating ice cream. I'm happy. There's so much
Yeah.
sugar.
Well, I don't think the kid. Obviously, I won't go as far as to say he's a fantastic actor because we've seen no range, but he's incredible at doing the dead stare.
I mean, it's almost a little bit over the top, but it's fine because he's a kid. Like, if the kid's doing a dead
Yeah.
stare, it'll look like this, so it's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
I fear if he was actually giving anything with like a dramatic scene that he might struggle to actually do anything with.
Yeah, I'm not arguing that.
Brian is essentially a prop. He's not a character. He's a prop.
Yeah. I mean, 95% of the time he stands and stares, and that's it.
Yeah. So,
Well, maybe he sits and stares, but point's the same.
So we have to talk about Wendy.
Yes. Who again? Only has a couple of scenes. It feels extremely separate at this stage of the season, doesn't she?
It feels pretty separate. I think this is the first time though it didn't feel like her job was affecting her personally. Because up until now it never felt that separate to me. Because much like Bill and Holden, it was always about okay, what does she do? You know, the type of cases she studies, the type of things she's devoted herself to. How does that affect how she thinks and operates in like everyday relationships? This was the first one that didn't necessarily feel like it had anything directly for me, kind of like tying into that.
I agree, and I will say, even on that point, even if it was tying in a little bit, I feel for me at least it suffers a little bit in that there is nothing work related at all. Like even if there was things, the work affecting her personal life, that's something, but that's probably not enough for me at this point where Bill has a lot of personal issues, but he's still involved in the case. Wendy it's just a couple of personal scenes, and that is it. There is nothing in a professional capacity.
What's weird to me about that is I actually think how it's affecting her life is more important than her just being involved actually in a bit of work, just for the sake of having her be involved in a bit of work, if that makes sense.
I get that.
But she's going on a date, and they're getting ready, they're flirting, they're all happy, and then oh shit, the son's been dropped off. She forgot she switched weekends, and goes down to talk to the ex-husband, and Wendy eavesdrops on the whole conversation from the top of the stairs, and the way she speaks to her husband is very different than how she speaks to her. She brings this up later, and also when she mentions, she might meet a friend this weekend, or he might meet a friend this weekend, giving him that heads up. He's like, "Oh, is it someone special?"
Oh, I don't think so.
Yeah, is it someone special? And she's like, no, not really." And Wendy just like sneaks out the back door. Yeah. That scene was a little bit frustrating for me because it was kind of a typical TV eavesdropping scene, which feels less engaging and more just
where yes, she's clearly just saying that to the husband or ex-husband, as it may be, just to get him off the case and just to get rid of him. It doesn't mean she means what she's saying.
Yeah, I kind of felt that as well. Although when she actually gets to her later, although I did enjoy the idea of her getting a new answering machine out the box, because it's like 1980 and answering machines are relatively new pieces of equipment. But she, when Wendy speaks to her, it does sound like it's not just that statement, because she never even brings up that statement. I mean, even though
it's more the fact that she switched her personality and lied to the husband very easily.
Yeah, and I suppose if you're going to connect it to what she does, I mean, I guess a lot of the subjects they interview do hide things, and maybe that's what she's...
They do, but I feel that the hypocrisy, when all she's talked about is compartmentalizing, her personal life with her professional life, and just being like, being completely different people.
Her professional and personal life, you say?
God damn it.
Yeah, drink that booze. You said the phrase. So, no, there is definitely hypocrisy here. I think that's something Wendy needs to realize. That's probably her arc, assuming she has some sort of ending to this in the finale, which I assume she does.
There must be something, but I feel like there's not a lot of time left for her.
Yeah, I think the casualty of having Holden and Bill go to Atlanta, and that case being the focus of the rest of the season, is that it left Wendy, and I suppose to an extent Greg.
Yeah, but we don't give a shit about Greg.
Because I thought they were going to do more interviews, but then Gunn, shot that down.
Which was a valid plot point in itself and character beat. But I feel like nothing's followed up on that since.
Well, it's only been one episode. I want.
No, it is, but the scene that came after last episode,
Yeah.
and then this here now. There's been nothing that's really kind of followed it.
I won't hold it too harshly. Yeah. I mean, it's not that big a deal. It's like her subplot in this episode is the only time it's been kind of weak to me versus everything else. Because everything up until now, it's been very much about how her work's affecting her, but also being another example. We talked about last episode about the sexism in the FBI and how Gunn treats her.
Well, yeah, I think I have said. I don't know if it was last episode or the one before. I'm not sure, but I have said it feels like she's very separate to a fault in that it feels like, yes, she's a main character because we established her as such a main character in season 1, but we don't actually have anything for her to do. So here's just a little subplot each episode on a personal thing. And while they've mostly been good, or decent at the worst, usually they've been inherently just feeling like, okay, we need something for Wendy this episode, to me at least.
Well, see, I feel like all the stuff with like her place in the FBI and how she's being treated is actually adding a lot of nice context to the world that we're in right now, and things that are going to come up as they tackle more cases, and things that will prop up. The way that Gunn treats her might become very relevant when they have to deal with a certain case or something like
It
that.
might, yeah.
Her sexuality no doubt is going to come up, and when some of them find out.
Yeah.
Maybe even that may even be her arc this season. Maybe it's her coming out to her co-workers in the finale. Who knows? I mean, that may be a season 3 thing. Maybe
I'll be surprised if it is in this last episode.
But this episode is just this relationship has been fine in giving us like how she treats people because of what she does. Just this particular episode, the subplot felt a little bit just sort of strenuous in the sense that it felt like more of a typical TV plot, because it was the eavesdropping and the breaking up and getting mad at each other. It felt like typical TV tropes. It didn't really land for me in this one, which is why I was surprised when you said the Wendy stuff, also the Nancy stuff, was the weakest part of the episode for you, because for me it was definitely the Wendy stuff.
That's fair. I mean, both are not particularly great. I think this is probably ends up at the weakest episode of the season for me. Those factors there, there's that's maybe 7 or 8 minutes of runtime that I'm outright a bit just not interested in. It does feel like, okay, we're kind of just waiting to get to this last episode. There was good stuff in there, don't be wrong, but I think it was the weakest for sure.
We did have one scene with BTK at the start again. So he's been at the start of most episodes.
Out a new victim by the look of it.
He's missed maybe 2, I think, out of the 8 that we've watched.
Yeah, we had the one where they were testing with picking up the kids.
Yes, which Holden tells Jim about this episode, and Jim's like, well, I mean, that's not Atlanta. Different places act differently, and the communities are more mixed here. There's just less, segregated, I suppose. That's maybe not the right word in this case, but
less distinct districts where, okay, no, this is this group of people, and this is this group of people.
So yeah, so it was interesting for me to bring it up and Jim to kind of shoot it down. It's like, yeah, but that may not actually hold up here in the same way that you think it is. Like, because he agrees his logic is fairly solid, but it's not foolproof. It's not, like there's caveats to it.
No, and it's fair. Again, he's not saying that Holden is definitely wrong. He's like, no, you could be onto something with this, and it's a reasonable way of narrowing the profile, but we shouldn't take it as fact.
And of course, the BTK, as we're mentioning, yes, he's scouting out a victim. However, he doesn't pick the one he's looking at because a husband comes out of the house and it helps her bring in the groceries. So he moves on. It's kind of like that was going to be his victim, and then he, drives on. Because as we've kind of learned, he's kind of gotten better at it as he's went along, where he's specifically targeting women who live alone and things like that. So it's another little tease, and I do like how slow burn this BTK stuff is. He's just a kind of a presence throughout the whole show so far.
Yeah, like they're barely aware of him. Obviously, they know he exists, and he's there, but they're not actively following it.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, this season was a huge leap forward. In season 1, they never talked about him. They never mentioned him, at least to my memory. Like when when the guy came in with the box, he's like, "Oh yeah, look at this BTK." He's like, "Oh, BTK." Like Bill had heard it. He'd heard the name, so he knew he existed, but we never really talked about him in season 1. So
no, they're just, and even in this season, it wasn't much given how clearly ever present he's been. There's not been a lot of talk about him. Maybe 2 or 3 scenes total.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the bigger episode was episode 2, where Bill goes to talk to the survivor and hears about how like people in the area like treat their homes and things like that. So I would argue that most of that episode was about it, but yeah, but I like how much of a slow burn it is, and that we're really treating it like something. So, whenever this show ends, well, that's season 3, season 4, whatever. Like,
I know they've said again, it was said before season 1, and it was reiterated in an interview before season 2. There is a 5-season plan from Fincher.
he's David Fincher, so they might, let him go
They
for
might
it.
let him, yeah.
Yeah.
And I know they said, the reason this season took so long to come out was simply because Fincher wouldn't let them start shooting until he'd done all the scripts and until he was happy with all of them.
It's nice that he's so hands-on. Because I think when you look at this show, it does feel very consistent across the board in terms of its vision. It doesn't feel like it's dancing around like a diverse writer's room of like different minds who are like pulling it in different directions. It feels like one person's kind of like, this is my almost what's the word I'm looking for? My like your when an auteur has their one big work, their
your begins with an M, doesn't it?
Magnum opus. There you go. That was the phrase I was looking for.
I was like, it begins with an M. I'm like, quickly, what is this?
Magnum opus. That was the phrase. Yes. So there you go. That was 2. Hopefully Fincher's getting a move on though, so we're not waiting 2 years for every season. That'd be nice.
That would be real.
Because
nice.
otherwise we won't be ending till like 2026.
Hey, it'll make the aging of that BTK stuff all the more natural.
That's true, actually. By the time they arrest him, he'll actually have aged by 10 years. That's a good point. As will all the cast. They'll all be like, Bill and Wendy are about 40-ish. They'll be in their 50s.
Joe, I'm really interested about how they're going to handle it. Because I know, like, the person who Holden was, loosely based on had left the FBI. He wasn't working with them by the point that they actually caught him. So I wonder if they're just going to twist it a little bit for this show, or if that's kind of the point that Holden can't catch them all on his own.
Maybe they'll go that route. Maybe we'll get some new people that we follow, but we still see like him following the case as a civilian, kind of from home or whatever. Maybe we'll see that. Also, I want to point out, we mentioned back in episode 2 about how much the actor looked like the killer. And I heard some comments on this from creators behind the show. Actually, there was an interview with the actors talking about how they actually were using prosthetics to make them look more like the killers. Yeah. So it wasn't just that the guy probably looked close enough, but
close enough. Yeah,
but they actually got him to look almost identical because they were using prosthetics.
Oh, I know. Netflix on YouTube posted a behind the scenes video, the transformation into Kemper. With all the prosthetics, the makeup, whatever they've done to show you the full journey. It's a good like couple of minute little watch if you're interested in that sort of thing. But
they definitely said that prosthetics were a bigger thing this season. Like the last season, they weren't necessarily using prosthetics as much. It was more just traditional hair makeup, whatever. Yeah. But this season they've kind of went one step further, and Son of Sam was the one that was like, holy shit, this looks like him.
I thought that when I saw him, but hey, they did a fantastic job. I mean, if it's not just a credit to the casting, which I think you still have to credit the casting for the carrying the role, pulling it off, but it's credit nothing to the makeup department and whoever's doing the prosthetics.
If the person can't act, it's all for nothing.
Exactly.
But yeah, really, really good job. So, no, really good. So, that is episode 8. We have the finale left because it's a 9-episode season. So we'll see for that. It should be tomorrow around the same time as this one. So let us know what you think of episode 8 in the comments below. Like and subscribe, all that stuff. Get us on the Twitters at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the show and the channel and everything we do here, you can have it at patreon.com/mailedfuzztv. where you can support us for as little as $1 per month, and you can get bonuses, exclusives, get some stuff early, all that kind of thing, and keep all the content coming. But otherwise, rate the podcast on your podcast app, 5 stars, and give us a little review. Helps more people find us, all that kind of thing. But that's us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV, guys. Have you got any vanilla?